Yeah. Good day, students, soldiers, sexy women, and snot-nosed children that just need taught a lesson by the ultimate digital sport machine that is I, Sensei Savagery, the god of athleticism, the king of swing, the best at baby making music, and the great at making them late. Firstly, you're welcome. You're welcome for being so good looking. Firstly, god of athleticism. I'm on that. Secondly, king of swing, whether it's a golf club, baseball bat, these hands, sex swings. I'm on that. I'm the king of all that. King of baby make music. Just go check out my streams, the Sensei Savagery streams. My X, whether it be my X, my YouTube, my TikTok. My X has like the highlights, like my favorite ones. If you go through my YouTube, some of them they're just me sitting there playing the game, not as entertaining. But my X has like the highlights, my favorite ones, and the great in making them late. It is hilarious to think about how many women out here that I make late to appointments, to, you know, hey mom, I need your help, or, you know, I should have been doing homework, but instead I'm watching Sensei Savagery. How many I make y'all the great and making them late. So as a great comedian once said, let's start out with fun. That's what we're all about, starting out with fun, get to serious, and then let's get back to fun. So the fun is obviously the intro, me having some fun with that. Then you'll know what that's about. So now we get into the serious. Yeah. Funny old world, isn't it? I guess in all seriousness, firstly, I'd like to give thanks to our species and members of our species that has led me to be able to speak to you through this device, and to be in a home that has, air conditioning and clean water and, all the things that obviously you can be thankful for, right? All the technologies that people have developed on this, either when you want to call it a magical rock or a scientifically sophisticated planet that has extreme powers to it, whether it's creating electricity or, the ability to purify water, all these different things. So firstly, just giving thanks, thanks to the, farmers that are out there, though that's a whole different rabbit hole. Because most farming can be done by machines these days. It doesn't need to be done by a person. But the serious things I want to address are, because in my past videos, and I'm going to link my past videos, and in all seriousness, so first thing, give thanks. Second thing is admit I'm not perfect. Like I've said in a previous video, I've tried to, solve this world's problem, which is, corruption and insecurity, basically. And the mistakes I've made in the past is my savagery, or my sense of humor, or my belief that shitty people will change, has made some of those videos not 100% useful. Like that's where I've messed up, is, being overly silly about things, over savage, overly humorous about things, overly savage about things, or expecting greedy, insecure people to not be greedy and insecure. So I'll link those, and then I go in more in depth on those. So, seriousness, I'll be thankful. I'll admit I'm not perfect. God, I mean, I kind of am. That's hard. That's hard for me to say because even something perfect would in itself think it's not perfect. Never mind. I'm just kidding. Uh, um, so the serious notes I want to put together. Like I said, my other video is kind of more important as far as like, and like I said, it'll be linked. The showing your hand video, how to like first the steps to take to fix this society. But I have to address kind of the older generation, the civilians, and people of Christianity. This is for you, Rome. What you doing in my house? Um, so I hear things like, and this is kind of hopefully like even of all religions can see this and be like, oh, like I said, I'm sorry, I'm a little, what's the word I want to use? Oblivious to other religions, but not totally ignorant to them. Most of them are very spiritual based, being one with, yourself and others and things of that nature. But specifically Christianity, because that's the religion that's, um, unless you want to go into, I don't know what most Asian cultures, their religion is. Buddhism? No, that's more Indians. What is the, like monks, but those are Buddhist temples as a monk. So super like, uh, what's the word I want to use? Like in harmony, trying to be like, basically I'm saying like Christianity being the religion of America that has all this, power, guns, weapons, infrastructure, all these things. Stop saying this is you being basically literally the Antichrist yourself. Stop saying you're waiting for the second coming of Jesus because he already came a second time. He was here the first time, he died, and he came back to life. That was his second coming. He already came second. So you can say you're waiting for him to come a third time. And you know what? You would be right. And he's going to come right now. You know why? Because he's in you. That was his whole message. Jesus can come back right now. Just the way he said in the Bible. He is God's son, and we are all brothers and sisters in God's kingdom. Now, that I know some people try to twist that, and then they try to be like, well, that means we're all inbred, Adam and Eve, and everyone came from Adam and Eve, and blah, 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 blah. Again, that's just, you have to, when people try to twist things into like negatives, because again, inbreeding is basically just child abuse to a certain degree. Hiding the rest of the world from your offspring. So yeah, that was the first message. Stop saying you're waiting for him to come back, because he can come back right now, like I just said. I mean, Jesus laid hands on people and cured them. Well, what do you call medicine? It's people using their hands to create medicine and cure people. Jesus was a carpenter that could probably build a home for someone. Well, there's people out here building homes for people, but they're doing it for profit. Jesus wanted people to do it out of their kindness of their heart, feed their neighbor, clothe thy neighbor, feed thy neighbor, shelter thy neighbor, kind of thing. So that's the first thing as far as serious with addressing. And then secondly is to be aware of So Jesus died on the cross. If you want to look at the story as if it is in its accuracy, the way I see it is it's either there's two things. Either the Bible is written to scare people to not be like Jesus, because before in the Old Testament, which I'm more of an Old Testament guy, it was eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth, um, kind of thing. Like you kill someone, you get killed. And then the Ten Commandments, like it was when people talk about God in the Bible, they're just referring to, and like I said, most of the prophets in the Bible all say, Old Testament and New, that God is the human brain. God is the human morality. God is, um, as far as like you think about the Ten Commandments, were sent by God, is how it's read in the Bible, and they were all things that any moral person or any person wouldn't want to happen to them. So like God is just, and now I also understand that in different times that certain humans could get a God complex when like disease came through. Like if certain people were just wiped out by disease and you lived, you would be like, oh, I was chosen to live on, even though everyone else died, kind of thing. So I can get where like a weird God complex of certain people that live through, certain genealogies live through disease and famine, like invisible forces basically that got people sick and killed a bunch of people. And you live through that because you have some sort of immunity that others don't. You'd be like, holy shit, like what the fuck? People just started dropping like flies and here I am and I'm okay. So I could get people being like having this superstitious, like in a way true, that their genealogy is superior to those that died to those things. Speaking of being sick, goddamn pollution. um, so yeah, the first thing, stop saying you want the second coming. He already came a second time. It would be a third coming. Um, God is just the depiction. God is just the human psyche throughout the Bible. It's just how they call it the soul, the brain, just the things. The Ten Commandments are like 10 things that make a human go ick. Like, ugh. Like, damn, I don't want to die, so let's make a rule that you shouldn't kill people. Or, damn, I don't want people to steal my things, so let's make a rule that you shouldn't steal. It's very simple. It's just God is just the human psyche throughout the Bible. And it's wrestling with its own morality, right and wrong, that sort of thing. And then be aware that if, like I said, Jesus can come back right now, because the way his message was, as the Bible tells, and it's hard for me to tell what stories in the Bible were altered, which ones are accurate, but I think it's like the cool part of the Bible is like, whether you look at it like it was flipped or flopped, you can still find a good message in it. Like you can try to like make things like twist a story. Like in my head, I wonder like, was Jesus even crucified, or was it, they make him sound like, he was, and again, how he was different from the Old Testament where it was, eye for an eye, tooth for tooth, all this and that. You kill someone, you get killed. If you're a whore, you get fucking stoned. Like his thing was forgiveness. Like, no, let's try to like, let's be even more moral. That was his thing. Like, let's, forgive those that do harmful things. Forgive them for they know not what they do. Like they don't. Some people are so traumatized that they don't even, all they know is doing bad things. Now, so my thing is, if Jesus were to come back, which all you have to do is let him let him come back. He, like I said, his message was, you know, I am in all of us. So congratulations, he's back. If you're able to feel that and where I'm coming from. Um, Now if he were back, the way he lived his life was, um, man, he was trying to flip over the table of society. Um, he made friends with I mean, he literally, that's what he did in that synagogue. Those people were selling. He was kind of a prick. Jesus wasn't, they make like, oh, Jesus was this, nice guy. It's like, nah, he was probably ahead of his time, really smart with medicine. He said, they say he lay hands on people. People waiting for this like magical person to come back. It's like, no, people lay hands on people now and they cure them of things. But through like, medicine and stuff. Jesus was probably just ahead of his time when it came to medicine and knew how to cure people of things. Um, the But like I said, he was a prick. He went to that synagogue where people were selling goods. Like I put in a previous video, but I'll just say it again. It was similar to, if you've ever watched the movie Gladiator, Marcus Aurelius was praying to like wooden figures of like a woman that was his wife, and like a home, and he would pray for his home, and a little figure of his son. He would pray for his son, his horse, pray for his horse. That's what I imagine when Jesus went into that synagogue. What Jesus would, I think, was upset about is people were selling those things for the copper, the money. He's like, if you're going to make something, like where Jesus would, I guess, consider that a waste of time is what he thought. He's like, if you're going to do something to like give to someone, or if you're going to make a piece, like if you're going to make a little wooden doll of a woman so that someone can pray to it, just give it to him. Be like, hey, I made this for you. I made this out of the kindness of my heart. Because to him, it was like so much waste of time. He's like, he only had, in Jesus's mind, you could only waste so much time. He didn't like waste of time. That dude was always on the move, always fishing, always talking to a lot of people, always trying to do things. And he would go away on his own, pray in a garden, go deep in prayer. And that was the only breaks he would take. Like that dude, he was washing the feet of his own people, his own disciples. That dude was not into laziness, just collecting coin because, So yeah, if Jesus came back just now in you, because that's what he preached, that he was in all of us, that we're all brothers and sisters in Christ. Do you think it's time to flip the table over? To be mad at the people collecting taxes, wasting time? Now, this is where I got to jump into, or do you think this is, I mean, to the days before Jesus died, and they make it sound like, said Jesus was not the nicest dude in the world. Like he said, he flipped them tables over. It even says like he chased them out. Like he was like whipping them with something, if I remember correctly. To the day that I think what stopped Jesus from, and like I said, his mission can still be accomplished. It's just way in the future. His third coming, him and all of us. I think his fear of losing his people being destroyed is what got him on the cross. Because Jesus talks about the devil or Satan, or if you did its correct pronunciation, it would be devil, as in they will, or Satan, Satan, or Satan. Devil being if we do this, they will do that. Like Jesus was aware that if we like try to go up against this empire that has shields and swords and yada yada yada, and we go with sticks and stones, they will destroy us. and Satan being the sound that an arrow or a spear makes flying through the air. Like, if you ever hit a baseball or hit a golf ball or shot an arrow or heard a, well, it's kind of hard to hear a gun bullet. No, you can definitely hear a gun bullet. If a gun bullet, or if you imagine an arrow back in the day flying through leaving the arrow and flying through the air, what sounds is it going to make? And what's going to happen when it hits a shield? Tan! Satan. Satan. That's, to them, that was Devil, the evil, and Satan, the sound that an arrow makes flying through the air, and ton when it hits a shield. So he said that's what we're going up against. They will do this, and there's Satan, like their superior weaponry, because that's the only thing I can think of. Because the few days before he died, his homies were chopping motherfuckers' ears off when they were saying, Jesus, we're going to take you in. And those are people that hung out with Jesus every single day. Jesus was like the super nice guy, yada, yada, yada. But he was talking about radical change. But he was trying to do it through goodness. And I think he had a fear of all his people getting slaughtered, which essentially they kind of ended up happening. But like I think Jesus was a superior hard worker, a very intelligent, ahead of his time with medicine. And his disciples knew these things. Like, he taught them the way of how his God worked, how his mind worked, the things he learned. I mean, he hung out with rabbis when he was like a little kid, so he didn't hang out with stupid people. His mom was probably a pretty smart person. They don't talk too much about what Mary was all about, but she's probably pretty smart. Joseph was probably pretty smart. The area he grew up in was probably a pretty smart area, and he was just a kid that just wanted to learn everything. Became a carpenter and built homes and stuff for people, probably. Not probably, that's how the story goes. He feared that if they rose up in a violent way against Deville or Satan, that they would all get killed. And so that's when his homies were like starting to chop motherfucking soldiers' ears off and shit. He's like, hey, like, if we go this route, we're going to get fucked up because we're going up against a military complex. Now, if you had to put a name for evil today, evil being he will do this. If I do this, he will do that. It would be click, pow, lethal injection, we can grow babies in a bag. That would be a name. Like, click, pow, I can take eggs out of a woman with a syringe and sperm from a turkey baster, put them in a bag and grow a human. Like, it's a whole nother level of like the evil that's capable. It's a different level, it's different than, you going toe to toe with a dude with a spear and a sword and a shield and a helmet. Now it's a dude with a fucking flying dragon, i.e. a helicopter, or a fucking airplane that's got a fucking, a nuke on it that can drop a city and destroy it for 100 years or whatever, whatever it might be. But I think what people fail to realize is they ended up killing all the disciples. But it's like, you don't think how did Christianity become the religion of Rome? It's because they captured those disciples. And at the time, they were, the Romans hated all of, Jesus's followers because Jesus was trying to do an uprising. And they probably did uprise after, as far as they talk about the temple being destroyed, they probably did uprise after Jesus got killed. But when they captured the disciples, those closest to him, you don't think they tortured them? Like, hey, teach us how Jesus was healing people with his hands. And all of a sudden, Rome starts, curing disease and progressing and getting better and building this great empire, right? You don't think they tortured the disciples before they killed them? So they killed them out of anger. They didn't, like I said, but in learning from the disciples, they ended up going like, oh, like, I see why they live like this. Like, it's more in harmony. It's less waste of time. I mean, there's something about There was one of my favorite characters in Game of Thrones says, he's like, there's two things I love in life. It's taking a man's life that wants to take mine, and the love of a woman that wants to be loved. He's like, I don't like whores. Like, I don't like paying for. That was what the Romans and shit did when at the time of Jesus. They just paid for whores or they'd rape women. But there's something to like a woman that wants to be loved, loving her, or it's like it's easy to just go around, easy to go around and just take people's lives. But there's something to when someone's trying to take your life and then you take theirs. Like, and this is just again, that's a Game of Thrones fantasy. It's more for you soldiers to understand what I'm thinking. Um, but as far as the older generation go, man, I just feel like y'all have been brainwashed into so much hate, so much self pity. Like y'all, like the older generation wants to like tear this fucker apart, like tear it down. It's like no, like people put a lot of hard work into building all this infrastructure. It just needs to be upgraded, and that goes into my other video where I talk about that's what humanity's goal has been since the beginning of time is to upgrade. If that wasn't the case of our species, we'd still be living in caves, talking like in weird like a incomprehensible language. Um, but then all of a sudden now this older generation's like, no, we're just gonna have everything stay the same. It's like, okay, well then you're dumber than a caveman because you don't want to see things progress into a society where, I mean, we have the infrastructure where literally every person in our nation that has a home or even an apartment's a little harder to do because it's less space, but could have an indoor garden and contribute food, or an indoor hen house or goat pen and contribute to the food thing, and people could just go get, you wouldn't have to like pay for food. You might have to like get food weighed. Like you couldn't just go to the store and take all the strawberries. There'd be like a weight of strawberries you could have, per week or something like that. Or, but everyone could contribute towards, as humans, I say it in all my videos, since the beginning of time, we just need food, shelter, and a way to educate the next generation to be able to do better and save lives and that sort of thing. But the older generation, man, they just want to burn it down. It's like they're basically the Jesus. Most of them consider themselves Jesus disciples, and his following. And what did they do? They fucking, and like I said, they revolted, and most of them got killed by the Roman Empire. Because at the time, the Roman Empire was like, we ain't dealing with the revolt. Like, what the fuck? Until they, captured the disciples, interrogated them, still murdered them. But then they, later they sat there and thought like, like they did know a lot. They did have a way of living that was pretty cool. And they tried to adopt it. And then, of course, the Roman Empire falls because you have the old guard still wanting to be these rapers and murderers. And then you have the new guard going like, no, we can all kind of like chill out and fall in love. And, and then you get into like eventually like I said, the Roman Empire falls, but they started, creating this environment of love. And you get with the gods of love and gods of war and gods of all these different things. And it's like what the fuck? Like you live by the sword, die by the sword. Again, for my soldiers. And in the first video I'll link in this, I describe, like I said, but sometimes where I think Jesus, messed up. Sometimes you do, like I said, if you're going up against a force that's it's choosing violence, then I mean, yeah, you have to meet violence with violence, but like to a degree. Like instead of going around, killing, bad cops or these ICE agents and shit, like, can we capture them? Can we throw them, lock them in a room somewhere somehow? Like, can we, like, it's like, that's my thing. Like, but again, it's just the system is so corrupt right now. And again, just watch my first linked video. It describes like how we get them to truly show their hand. It basically just boils down to what Jesus would have done and what he can do in the third coming and his rebirth in you is, you know, not contribute to the system that's only benefiting a few and leading to so much more corruption and evil and coercion and all these things. And then if they really start choosing violence, like they sick the police and all these different forces on us, the military, all this and that. And again, that you're good. It'll be pretty obvious to see which people are on the side of good and which people are on the side of evil. Because if you're a military person that wants to show up in arms against people that are mostly unarmed and start taking people's lives, brother, you got to get thrown in a pen somewhere and like your mind evaluated. Like, oh, like I said, and again, this would go back to how Jesus would have thought. He didn't want people to die, period. But that's what ended up happening. Like, Jesus was willing to sacrifice his life. And then people still ended up dying because unfortunately, sometimes that's what it fucking, why it takes that, I don't know. I think because some people do want to die. Because they're insecure, miserable, have lived, and I say miserable because it's usually from trauma. And those are the people that go around trying to, I don't know, just feel like they're living in hell and they just want to terrorize people. So the older generation basically like quit. And I think the older generation is so annoying is because they didn't have cameras following them around all the time. So like they could be lazy because there wasn't someone that could go up to a camera with them like, hey, why are you not doing anything? Or they're good at being lazy and assholes because no one could go up with a camera and be like, hey, you're fucking an asshole. And this goes to military. If you want to know as a military member how to deal with civilians, because I've had that problem. Like in the military, it was either be respectful or let's see how disrespectful you can get. Because I deal with so much disrespect and laziness and just in my civilian life. And it's like, if I was in the military and this is how the, drill sergeants and stuff and drill instructors and all the different, if like you try to take a disrespectful tone with them, they're going to get in your face. They're going to yell in your ear and they're praying that you try to get physical with them so they can teach you that there is consequences to you being a disrespectful little shit. But in the civilian world, when I get disrespected, if I go and yell up in someone's ear and, be like, okay, if I match disrespect with disrespect, I end up being the problem. Even though I'm bringing a solution. I am the solution. The problem was that person being so disrespectful that they pissed me off. That's the problem. I'm just, and the funny part about it is that in the military, even in the military, 90% of the people cave. Like they try to take a disrespectful tone with the drill instructor or a drill sergeant. And then a drill instructor who's a grown-ass man, been doing it for a long time, been training their ass off their entire life, gets right in their face and is like, all right, bring me a problem. Either fix your tone or bring me a problem. What you got? But like I said, in the civilian world, you scare the shit out of people when they do that. And like you said, you get HR complaints and people are all fucking scared. But it's like, what are you talking? I'm just doing what some of the finest individuals like are willing to do or what they do. But so if you're a military person going to the civilian world, I think the easiest way to think is because in the military you develop a certain confidence because you learn to do difficult things, physically, mentally, and most people don't ever push themselves that hard in life. And so there's a lot of envy from people, or some of them can't even do it. Well, some people can't even physically make it into the military and mentally make it. They break. So there's like some envy there, but it's like, I think the easiest way to deal with civilians is when they try to talk to you, you just got to hit them with, if they hit you with the how's your day, you just go, sorry, man, there's a lot on my mind. I'm not really in the mood to talk right now. I appreciate you asking, but have a good one. Like, instead of them asking, how was your day or whatever, because usually as civilians, they're like reaching out because they see the strength. It's like, instead of when they ask you, how was your day, is that because you can come off as an asshole. Like I said, when people ask me, how was your day? I mean, I can just stare a hole into you and stare off because I don't even want to waste my breath on a lot of people. Or, but it's just like that simple little phrase, like, man, I got a lot on my mind right now. I'm really not in the mood to talk. I appreciate you asking. Um, if you got any problems that need solved, you're more than welcome to ask me. Um, but other than that, man, I'm cool. Or not like, um, but if you got any problem, I hope you have a good one. And if you got any problems that come up, you can talk to me about them. I'm just dealing with my own stuff right now. Because you can't, once you start like, once they want, and then I guess it goes back to envy. Once people start seeing the level of confidence that some people have that develop by doing really difficult things, they get envious. I dealt with it with my own mother the other day. I woke up in the morning. I had my son with me, and I was like singing a song, one of his kids' songs, like just to myself. And she goes, you don't have to talk all the time, or you don't have to talk, or something like that. I was like, what? Like, I'm just singing to myself. Like, it was just like the rudest dumb shit. And I told my own mother, I was like, eat one. That's literally what I said. I was like, what the fuck are you? That's like telling LeBron James after he dunks a basketball and he's excited. That's like you going, now I get it. You telling him in the spirit of the game, like, hey, you're celebrating too long because now you're not getting back on defense. But if it's just a split second of him, like, yeah, that's like telling LeBron James, quit being excited that you could dunk. LeBron's going to look at you like, or quit being excited that you just made a good play. LeBron's going to look at you and be like, what the fuck you? Like, I can be in a good mood if I want to. Like, and that's how some people are. Some people are in just horrible moods because of their trauma. And it's like, and that's their own battle that they gotta to deal with. And it's like all this mental illness is like just people not getting dopamine hits, whether it's through, and like I said, I get my dopamine hits by doing difficult things and succeeding at them on occasion, whether it's, sports, working out. I do some of the most difficult physical things that humans can do. And when I succeeded at them, I get that dopamine hit, or even just the challenge of it. I get the dopamine hit, whether it's, or even video games, the challenge of playing a video game, getting that dopamine hit of, oh, I succeeded. Or working on machines, like, oh, there's a problem with this machine. Oh, I fixed it. I get that dopamine hit. Some people don't ever do difficult things and succeed. Some people are just doing easy stuff all the time, so they never get a dopamine hit of, oh, I succeeded. So then their chemicals, they never get good chemicals, so they end up sickly and upset. And it goes back to like even um like competition. Some people like see someone that's better than them and they get down on themselves. They're like, oh, I suck. Instead of looking at it as an opportunity for, that's what I can strive for. Like, some people are just broken, and that's probably because of the way they were raised. They were probably told like, oh, you're not as good as the other kids, go out there and watch. And they go out there and watch, and they're like, oh, those kids are better than me, I should just give up. Like, instead of being like someone that's like, instead of being raised, being told like, if you work hard, you can do difficult things and succeed at them every once in a while. So then when you see someone's better than you, you're like, oh yeah, you can be successful if you work hard enough. And obviously that's limited by your, in certain sports and fields, it's limited by, some physical attributes, but it's mostly limited by how much hard work you're willing to put in. Or in the case of basketball and most pro sports, how much human growth hormone and steroids and testosterone you're willing to take as you're going through your growing years. I know you're not actually supposed to be 6'8". You're supposed to be 6'1", but you took a bunch of deer velvet to get yourself taller or whatever, elephant tusk, whatever it needs to be. Um, so that the older generation, man, y'all got to fix yourselves and fix yourselves quick. Um, and be open to that third coming. So many of y'all claiming to be Christian people and go to church and all this and that, but you gotta let Jesus come back. He always he preached that he was in all of us. So are you willing to flip over the table? Are you willing to tell people, yo, if you're gonna do like share instead of you're charging all this money for stuff? How about we all do some work? How about we all go fishing? Um, and we figure out how to share and have enough that there's more than enough. And I get now where people get caught up, and this is this goes to the insecure people in charge right now, and the insecure people all over the world that are, whether it's fat, ugly. Oh, and this goes into, I think we were brainwashed a little against. I think I was brainwashed a little against Muslims, because I started realizing that when I joined the military, I joined because I was watching women covered in robes, and it was like I was taught that it was under the guise of oppression, like they were forcing their women to do that. Maybe they are, like I said, but I haven't been there. And all religions have been weaponized at some point. Um, but in my eyes, I'm like, what if that's just what their culture does when the women aren't feeling themselves, when they feel ugly? Like even our culture does it here in America, where women are they're free to do whatever. But when you see homegirl in some sweatpants and sweatshirt and a bunch of makeup on her face, that means she them legs is hairy, them arms is hairy, and her face is probably covered in all kinds of pimples and stuff. What if it's just that's how their culture is, how women cover themselves up when they're not feeling their finest, you know what I'm saying? As opposed to it being like a forced thing. Now that would be almost kind of funny if it was a forced thing. Like, damn girl, you ugly. Hurry up and throw this shit on and take it off when you fucking look pretty again. Pretty again. Oh man. But yeah. Where to go from there? Back to fun. Like I said, it's gonna take some hard work, but not that much. So much hard work has already been done building this beautiful infrastructure that we have. We just got to turn it into something to where we're all going fishing. We're all putting in a little bit of work. You know how easy it is to fish. You need a little bit of bait, and you just sit there and wait. Ooh, let's put that on a t-shirt. You need a little bit of bait. Sit there and wait. So it's like if everyone's got an indoor garden and that's everyone's job. Oh, so going back to the insecure people that are, these people that still to this day are going around throwing people in pins because they have guns and they're not willing to throw hands with people, using guns to get their women or using money to get their women. This mostly goes to men because it's the men that are most insecure and the most, you know, yes, well, the women are insecure, but women mostly just want to look pretty and be protected because they realize they're a little bit weaker. Even unless you're a woman that knows about guns and bows and arrows and shit, then you're like, bring it on, and knives and shit. But women's insecurities usually their beauty, um, and being considered beautiful their whole life, even after the pregnancy scars and the wrinkles start to come and all this and that. Men's insecurity is in their same thing, their ugliness, their fatness, their not well defined face like this, or their unathleticism. That's where you get into these athletes taking all these, PEDs, performance enhancing drugs, or going around with, guns and, throwing people in pins and women in pins so they can, rape them and take advantage of them and basically put them under Stockholm syndrome or coerce them with money. That's all insecurity. It's all insecurity. But I got y'all's back. Like I said, and I guess I'll finish with this. Let's get back to fun. I've made a lot of points, kind of most of the points I wanted to cover. And like I said, I'll link the videos that kind of I go into more detail. So I started out with the fun intro, got with the serious stuff to get back to fun. And this is in one of my other videos, but I'm not going to make you have to watch it. It's a long video. You should watch it, but it's a long video. About none of my videos are over an hour, really, maybe a little bit more at the most. But an hour to join in on one of the most beautiful societies could ever exist. Why not? That's what Jesus sat around and talked about. So, and you sit around and listen to that stuff all the time for an hour every day on a Sunday. You can listen to the modern day third coming. You know what I'm saying? For people that the way I imagine mating in the future is during, obviously we'll have, I imagine there being where there's like 30, what is it, 30 football teams right now. There'll be fucking, 100 something. Anyway, so obviously there'll be natural, like kids going to school together. There'll be natural mating pairing. But what these people that insecure and don't, insecure, not the best looking, not the most athletic, the people that don't get paired up young or, in their prime years because they're not necessarily the most, they're not the top of the food chain of our food chain. Because at the end of the day, there is people that are more athletic, people that are stronger, faster, all this, that, and better looking, better at singing, better at whatever it might be, more talented within what they're born with. Is I imagine, certain times of the year, like every year, or even multiple times a year, they're just being all the single people that are left that are still searching. I imagine this being like, people in their late 20s and 30s and 40s there'll be a day where it's like all the men naked lined up on a beach. They don't necessarily gotta be naked, but they gotta have either like, and it'll be like them with like, them screens that people like work out on. You can watch a person work out. It'll be like a thing of them naked, right? And they might just be sitting there fishing in the ocean, or they might just be sitting there reading a book. And it'll be like, the women can go down this line of men and swipe through their little, screen, their little workout screen, so they can see them naked. They can see how stuff they like to eat and cook and how they like to laugh and what their hobbies are. And they can be like, okay, I picked this one. And they can go and they can pick as many as they want, right? And it'll be like, one at a time, women goes through, pick the ones you want. And at the end of it, there's going to be men that are probably going to have more than others. Like they got more women pick them, but there would be no man left out. So if there was a man who got no women picked him, then the man that had the most would have to give up one of his least favorites to the point where, but the man who had the most would never not have the most, if that makes sense. So say the man that had the most had 100 and there's a guy that has 0. And the man that had second, say he had 99. So the man who had, or say there were 2 guys that had 0. So that's how you have to do this math problem. There were 2 guys that 0 women picked them. And the top 2, the number 1 guy had 100, the second guy had 99. So the guy that had 100 would have to give up one of his that had 0, but he wouldn't have to give up to where he'd be the point where 98, where he would then be the second most. The guy with 99 that was second most picked, he'd have to give up his to the other guy that had 0. And it's like, I realize that'd be tough for the woman. They're like, oh, I didn't pick this guy. But it'd be like, and then maybe you'd have to, that's giving, so that's kind of forcing the issue. But then, like I said, some of these things, you go more into detail, you get more nuance with it. Well, what if there's, a woman out there that's like, well, I don't want to be a part of this, 20 or 30 women, so I'm going to go with the guy with the 0. And maybe the guy that has 100 doesn't even have to give it up. Or maybe, some of those women, the next day they see, oh my God, 100 women pick this guy. And then the guy can, but that goes into a numbers thing. Then you have to start going into numbers. Like, are there more men than women? So if there's more men than women, then that's a tough one. That is a tough one. But then you get into science and, but if there's more men than women, or sorry, more women than men, then yes, in theory, some guys could, it's plausible for a a man to have more than one woman, and vice versa. If there's more men than there are women, it's plausible for a woman to have more than one guy. But then it's like a lot of people don't want to share their mate. That's the whole thing of marriage, is like, it's just, let's just do us. So then you get into like the science of, okay, well, I still like you. Would you be willing to, and that's, again, it goes into your solidarity. Like, are you willing to be a human that's like, okay, I'm just going to exist on this world and still enjoy it? Like I said, there's still things to enjoy. You're just not getting your dopamine hits through lovemaking. You got to get it through other things, challenging things, or being able to just sit down and relax. But then you go into, well, I picked that woman, but I don't want to share her. Would she be willing to give up? Because we have the science these days. Would she be willing to give up an egg so that it can be grown and that I could still have offspring with her, in a way, kind of thing? Like I said, I realize some of this stuff gets super, super crazy to think about, super detailed, but it's far more fun to think about how to bring people to love and procreation than it is to think about how dog shit the system is and how corrupt and evil and all those different things. So, and that would be my solution to all that. And that, because that's where most people end up in their darkest times, is because they feel alone and feel like they're never going to find a mate. And that's how I would solve that problem. And it's understandable, because everything's corrupt. Most of these women are basically slaves. I would say almost all of them are. They're slaves to money, slaves to corruption, slaves to a false individual. Like, you know, and but a lot of women are waking up and realizing, oh my God, this person isn't necessarily a good person, or necessarily they're a fake person. So yeah, that's getting back to the fun. It's a fun for me to think about, because if I was the ruler of the world, I would be the happiest man on the earth. Even if I woke up alone and had no wife or no, whatever, I would be the happiest man in the world, knowing that my people were chilling, relaxing, having fun, being well educated, and making love. Like, that would be pretty cool. And enjoying this world without, having to work goddamn 40 hours a week and barely getting by, and all the yada, 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 the so on and so forth. So welcome to the, if you felt any of this, enjoyed any of this, welcome to the third coming. And, I mean, really all I got to say is, yay.